All right, everybody, welcome back to the Habitat Podcast. We have a returning guest here today and a very special announcement. Mr. Al Tomechko, the HP soil guy. How you doing, my friend?
Good, buddy. Good. How are you, man? We're busy, but good. How are things going for you?
Oh, busy, buddy. If we couldn't be busy on what we'd be doing, but now you and I are extra busy. We got some brand new exciting stuff ready to talk about here today on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really exciting. And, obviously we did a post 2 days ago, kind of launching it, but why don't you tell everybody kind of what we're up to?
10-4. So yeah, we won't make the listeners wait any longer. Albert and I have founded a brand new soil building seed company. So the title or the name of the company, I should say, is VITALIZE Seed Company. And Al, why don't you tell us what Vitalize means, why we picked that name?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it means to put energy into and store into, which obviously is what we wanted to do, is vitalize the soil, right? Put energy into and store energy into the soil, right? So, sometimes people say revitalize is a common term. So re-energize is another way to say that, would be a synonym. But we want to just vitalize it, because maybe some of these soils have been so degraded for so long, they don't really need to be revitalized. They just need to simply be vitalized. So that's kind of the idea behind it. We want to pump energy and pump life into that. And how do we pump energy into the soil? Well, we take advantage of photosynthetic periods with green growing plants that are photosynthesizing and pumping root exudates into the soil, which we have done and which we will continue to do. With these seed mixes that we've developed specifically to take advantage of those different periods of time throughout the year, and not only just with the focus on soil building, but also with a focus around all wildlife and around white-tailed deer too. So there's a lot of polarization in this market, and we want to make sure that people realize that not only is this going to build soil, it's going to be real attractive to wildlife and real attractive to bees. I mean, it has so much diversity that it's really covering everything from your microbes to your big bugs.
Well said. I think I want to even get into, before we get further into the mixes themselves, let's get into kind of how and why we founded this company, right? A Vitalize Seed Company. We recognized there was a need out there based on the messages, the calls you've been getting, I've been getting after our soil discussions and our soil health episodes. I've been running no-till on the 15 for 4 years now. You've been running it at your farm for how long? And tell us why we're sitting here today with this new company.
Yeah, I mean, I've been running for about 6 years now. Haven't tilled, haven't fertilized in about 6 years. Maybe going on 7. I can't remember. It's either going on to 6 or going on to 7. But it's been a while. I made a joke. I have a tiller that's like brand new, and I just haven't been using. I need to sell the darn thing. But so we're sitting here. I have been pretty active. The Ohio Outdoors Forum, which has just been a tremendous opportunity to share a lot of information. Right, you just don't have that opportunity on like a Facebook or Instagram. I also had Instagrams, been on multiple podcasts, including yours, and just have been inundated with questions, honestly. And I had a lot of people ask me over the last 3 years, 3 to 4 years, I've been experimenting with my own mixes. And I'd say 4 or 5 years ago, I started making my own mixes, but not really as diverse, and kind of was just overseeding more so into clover to add a new element. And then it just naturally progressed as I read more and experimented more and wanted to try more things. And one of the things that was really interesting is, as I did this, I of course like to hunt whitetail deer as well, and have had some success, and that seemed to gain a little bit of traction also. And I just was getting inundated with questions and comments, and had a lot of people say, "Man, I'd like to buy that mix off of you. I'd like to buy that." And in the beginning, I kind of said, "Oh, no worries about that. Just you can make up your own mix." And what I found is there was a few things happening in the industry. One was accessibility to good information, and really to be able to answer people's questions, right? Because there's a lot of good and great information out there, but not everybody comprehends it at the same level. And they just want clarity. This is and it's not, you're not buying a house, but it's an investment into your farm or your property. To put in a food plot and to put in something into the soil that are going to feed, we say our deer, but the wildlife on the property. And people have questions. Wait, how should I do this? What if I do this? What if I want to till a little bit? I don't want to, moldboard plow it, but I would like to till or what have you. And there was no accessibility to those questions. And I can't tell you how many hours I spent helping people understand a simple soil test. All right, maybe I can't give you everything, but at least let's get you moving in the right direction here. Here are some generic things. The next was just the accessibility to actually getting good quality seed mixes. So people go to a local co-op. Most men probably won't want to admit it, but there is an intimidation factor there. You walk in, you want to buy 3 acres or 4 acres or 1.5 acres of seed, and the guy behind the desk who's been sitting there since 1948 is like, "Are you out of your mind? Like, I'm filling semi trucks full of ag beans. Like, I don't have time to sell you, the break bags. Hey, you want 16 blends? You're gonna buy 16 bushels of seed, and obviously nobody wants to do that." And I was blessed, growing up in Ohio, we have a lot of co-ops and things that I had experienced that sometimes, but I was able to find some areas over the years where I could make my own mixes, and I'd have to buy some stuff online and kind of piecemeal things together. But I also had the understanding of where I wanted to go with that. And I found that a lot of people really wanted to just say, here's what I'd like to do. Can you tell me exactly what to buy? So after a couple of years of that, Jared, it just made sense to say, you know what, let's see if we can bring something to market, just from an ideas perspective. Can we bring something to market that's the best quality product we can make at a really good price point that makes this whole process of soil building simpler for your wildlife enthusiasts, your food plotters, your hunters, your gardeners, your hobby farmers. You could plant this mix, our spring summer mix, in the back pasture of a horse pasture that you're maybe not going to graze for a year or two. You just want to help to vitalize that soil, right? You could put this in there and let the bees come and the deer and whatever else is on your property. So after running the numbers and doing all the things and making some commitments on our parts and getting websites created and everything, we've been able to do that. And it's really exciting to see what we've brought to market and kind of how fast it's taken off to this point.
Yeah, great history there. The website vitalizeseed.com is up. We did launch earlier this week, kind of a soft launch here. And to add in addition to your history, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm always looking at opportunities and things to grow the brand and the podcast and again, simplify this no-till, highly diverse system where we're going to have something growing and green and photosynthesizing in the ground 365. Now, what's interesting, the cost of fertilizer has gone through the roof. So we'll talk about that later. So it kind of all came at a good time. And then, like you mentioned, the commitments we made and some of the things we've been able to do and get a very highly diverse mix for spring and one for fall for us, for the listeners, for anybody who's interested in building better soil and cutting down on input costs and, be more holistic, if you will, more natural, more like Mother Nature would do it. So it's kind of our background on how we threw this together, guys. A lot of work has gone into this in the past, a few months to say the least, and it's going well. We wanted to tell you guys about it here. Now, Al, I don't want to dive too far into the technicalities. You and I can do that on podcasts later. We'll continue our soil health series to answer questions throughout as listeners have questions on these types of mixes. But what are we doing? What are the mixes? where are we starting with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so one of the things that I wanted to make sure is clear is, we wanted to take an approach that we felt that a lot of the things in the marketplace right now were, like I say, everything's on a continuum and there's extremes to everything. Whether you're a figure skater or a deer hunter, there's extremes to every industry. And I feel like we felt really comfortable kind of trying to land in the middle of the road and bringing a mix to the market that's going to work really, really well for that guy with the 10-foot Great Plains no-till drill, but also is going to work really well for the guy who is a bag seed, and we want to work through some different things, right? What's the level of thatch that you're mixing it into? Are you going to mow it off? Are you going to spray it off with herbicide? Now, how are you going to do that? We can help answer some of those questions. But that was not number one. We wanted to make a mix that would work in multiple different environments and situations, or even I had a guy contact me already about he has a tiller. He's like, what if I put my tiller on the highest setting, so barely touching the dirt, but it's just turning it over just to cover the seeds up? I'm like, who am I to tell you not to do that? There are some possible negatives, and we'll get down into that in another podcast that we can talk about from a fungal disruption perspective and possible erosion perspective and things like that. But if you're, barely, this is going to work in that environment too. So you can plant this traditionally, like, you would plant the old school way of doing food plots, deep till it. You could do a real light till. You could do a no-till broadcast. You could run it through a no-till drill. So, and the reason this is successful to do that is because of the diversity in the plant. So just in our Nitro Boost, which we have the name Nitro Boost for a reason, right? It's somewhat of a play on our fall mix is carbon load, right? So it's somewhat of a play on carbon and nitrogen ratios.
So Nitro Boost in the spring, carbon load in the fall. Okay.
Exactly. And of course, Nitro Boost is going to be heavy on the legume side. We're going to be fixing a lot of atmospheric nitrogen. And I don't want to make people think that's the only thing we're taking advantage of here. Because of the diversity, we're going to be sequestering a lot of other nutrients in the soil, everything from solubilizing phosphorus with your buckwheat root exudates to feeding mycorrhizal fungi, who are going to make a whole bunch of other really good things happen in the soil. Again, we can get more in depth into those processes and the rhizophagy cycle and things like that in another podcast. But with our seed mixes, you're going to have, I'm going to ramble these off fast because I just want to be cognizant of our time. You're going to have barley, cowpeas, you're going to have ag beans, you're going to have hairy vetch, crimson clover, sorghum, rape. You're going to have a forage pea, a forage bean, buckwheat, sunhemp, sunflowers, and fixation clover. So that is just our spring mix. What I would point out to people about that mix is you have seeds of all varying sizes, specifically formulated to make sure that the blend of that carbon and nitrogen ratio is exactly where we want it to be, so that it will break down rapidly when you terminate it, or when you broadcast into it. It's just going to simply be at the end of its life cycle in the fall for carbon load to take advantage of all that fixed nitrogen, all that additional nutrients that were absorbed, right, through those plants photosynthesizing all summer long. Now your carbon load, which is 16 species, we'll get into that in a different episode, can take advantage of all that naturally available process. And literally that's why we call it the 1-2 system, because we wanted to simplify this. You plant this now, you plant this then. Carbon load has such a high carbon to nitrogen ratio, specifically formulated for that, with a good balance of legumes and everything to sequester nutrients and fix atmospheric nitrogen as well, that you can plant it in the fall. It's going to give you cover all the way to the next spring, where that Nitro Boost is going to be then planted again and takes advantage of now that decaying soil. So what are we doing with these mixes, these diverse mixes, is we're keeping the soil covered. We're keeping a living root growing for as long as possible. If we can photosynthesize sunlight, if plants can photosynthesize sunlight, right, that is feeding microbes. Microbes make plants healthier, which means our plants are going to be more nutrient dense, which means when we have the right culmination of plants or gathering of plants, we can feed a lot of deer highly nutrient dense plants. Not to mention all of the trickle impacts, like having buckwheat and other crimson clovers things, or I don't know, honeybees. Those things are pretty important to the ecosystem of us, and of our environments. So the diversity of the mixes, and of course, we want to reduce disturbance of our soils to the very best of our abilities. As the system runs and you have more thatch built up, and you're creating better soil with higher levels of organic matter over time, we're able to then achieve less and less and less need for, if any need for disturbance. Like I said, I've been fortunate. I haven't had to till in 6 years, and I've been just planting right into this very similar system. These mixes are just a little bit better than anything I've made before, because of the time that we've invested.
Yeah, and what I like about it is the simplification of this program. So we're taking a spring planting, spring summer, call it, the nitro boost, and a fall planting, carbon load. And I am excited about both. That fall planting, not only is it going to feed off everything we've done all spring and summer, it has everything that I'd like to plant for whitetail. I mean, we'll get to that mix when we release it. It's not quite on the website yet. It's on there, but not quite ready to buy yet. Will be very soon. I'm extremely excited about this. The deer are concentrate selectors. They don't just eat one thing. We're going to be able to really give our wildlife the variety while pumping nutrients into the soil, mining nutrients from down below to the ground level where our plants can use them. Earthworms, we all know about earthworms. If you consider how healthy those are for your soil. Earthworm poop, if you will, some of the highest quality fertilizer we can get. Every time we till, we kill them all. So it's kind of interesting how just Mother Nature did it before we were even here.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're trying to bring that and simplify that at an economical price, and get it out to people that care about their soil.
No, absolutely, Jared. I mean, I like I said, I could go on for a long time. I have put together a packet, like I did a quick video yesterday, just to show people, what are you getting when you're planning our mixes, specifically when you can limit or reduce, or totally eliminate disturbance. You're getting soil aggregation, you're getting better microbial life, which means you're going to have better CO2 respiration, and the list goes on. Higher fungal networks and communications in your soil, more solubilized nutrients in your soil, and that's just below ground. And then we haven't even started talking about, well, what is it doing for the whitetail? What is it doing for does who need to produce milk in the springtime? What about, like right now, our farms in the foothills of Appalachia, there's not this time of year, if it's green, it's probably invasive, other than my fields, And I'll have 6-10 deer a night getting in on that, what was, carbon load this past fall, getting in on there, eating the things that are greening up. And of course, those are photosynthesizing and taking advantage of all of the good things that we want to have happen. And I think that that's a really cool observation.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, excuse me, about the observation. Why don't you tell that story about your neighbors and your does that you and I have talked about 100 times? But
yeah. I've told the story so many times, I'm tired of hearing it. But so we got a neighbor there, not too far away from our place, just kind of over a ridge, somewhat like adjacent, to the farm there. A couple of years ago, they shot a pile of deer, and it was really interesting because this past season, they said, we just didn't see the number of deer. And to be fair, the year that they shot a pile of deer, there was just ridiculous. I mean, you couldn't drive down the road without having deer run in front of the four-wheeler. Like, you almost have to run deer over with a four-wheeler. Talk about scaring yourself. I mean, it's like, wow, that was a lot of deer. But anyhow, so we had this opportunity and to continue to grow and build our soil, if you will. We hammered our fields with highly diverse mixes in the spring and summer. And then, of course, in the fall, we came up with our version at that time of carbon load, which had been last year. I talked to a neighbor, the ones who shot a lot of deer the previous year, and they're like, yeah, we just didn't see the deer. And I'm thinking, well, that's surprising because I killed one and saw him right away. And my little cousin had shot one. They saw 15 deer the first day of gun season, and they were back at the house by 4:30. It wasn't even prime time. They'd already seen 15 in this field. And now we're into Tuesday or Wednesday of gun season. like Michigan or Pennsylvania, once the guns start blasting, you got like a couple hours before those deer get really educated on it. I mean, another story for another day, but I've tracked it on trail camera before, where I literally will notate when gun season, you just see the drop off. You'll see button bucks, but other than that, and then as soon as gun season over, within like 24 to 48 hours, boom, they're back to a normal pattern again. It's really fun. It's an amazing phenomenon. But that Tuesday night came, and I had been tagged out, so I was cooking dinner or something, kind of hanging out. My uncle got back from the house pretty late, he goes, I was stuck in the blind. I had to wait for the field to empty. And I go, oh, really? So I'm thinking, these guys hadn't been seeing a lot of deer. Maybe we just got lucky 1 or 2 days in a row. And he goes, no, I think he saw 18 or 20 some deer that night eating in that field. And I had done a post on this, and that field, October 10th, I believe it was like knee high, and brassicas, rye grains, radishes, everything that's in those mix, 16 different species. And in about 6 weeks, it was ate down really low, which of course is not ideal, because we want to make sure that we're managing our doe populations and or increasing food and or both, right? Which I have a little bit of work to do there. But the point of that whole story is the draw from a concentrate selector that in Ohio you can bait. And then he's a really nice guy. He's open. He's like, oh yeah, well, I got piles of corn. We're not seeing deer. And here I have 18 in a field less than probably half a mile away. And that was really speaking volumes to me, because it's like they're picking this green lush field of highly nutrient dense that hasn't had an ounce of fertilizer on it, Jared. No fertilizer. This is turnips as big as my head almost, and not an ounce of fertilizer. And those deer are picking those over a corn pile. So really, really cool story to see that, the power of a concentrate selector. Once they find it and they realize, whoa, the nutrients here are pretty impressive, they stick on it. So there definitely is a draw for whitetail deer. I mean, I've observed it myself time and time again.
Yeah, I love that story. I mean, you can see how a deer, when they walk through the woods, when they walk through a soybean field, they can grab the most nutrient dense leaf or browse or whatever they're focusing on as they move through. And even like the mineral stumps that have been talked about a lot recently, all the very nutrient dense stuff. And you said no fertilizer. How many years has it been since you fertilized that field?
I've never fertilized that particular field.
And softball size or your head size turnips.
I mean, you've probably seen the picture of me. I have a ball cap next to a turnip that's on the ground. I mean, that was, yeah, I mean, just huge tops. And, and that's not everything. I mean, there's a lot, you have to be cognizant of the varieties that you're planting, right? You could have different types of turnips that are meant to have huge bulbs.
Sure.
But just as a little bit of an observation, some kind of a quantifiable visual for people, we've been able to achieve some really cool things with basically no input. I mean, I haven't even put lime down on that field, but maybe one time in like 4 years. So my other fields haven't been fertilized for about 6 years, with the exception of lime. So with the exception of lime. So other than that, I mean, it's just been a very natural process. And you can see a lot of that on our website. We have a lot of pictures that show the thatch breaking down with the turnip, and that's all broadcast. I mean, I don't have a no-till drill right now, so that's all broadcast. And again, that thatch is breaking down. What's cool is, I'm pulling soil samples last week, and talk about a good problem to have when you're pulling earthworms out of your soil probe. You know how hard it is to catch an earthworm in a soil probe? Like, you have to have a pretty high, that's like needle in a haystack, right? And I'm pulling them out of my soil probe, and that's with temperatures fairly cool. We're not talking midsummer. Like, earthworms are going to go pretty deep, when temperatures are cold, and we're pulling earthworms out of our soil probe. But I also noticed, the thatch layer from the previous year is less than it was earlier in the fall. Well, why is that? It didn't blow away. The microbes are breaking that down. And now our new thatch, that new carbon load is greening up, and it's all going to come up, and the cycle just continues. And nitro boost will be going into that, here in about another 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep. Yep. And I have pictures from your farm where I think there's 13 deer in this one trail camera picture.
Yeah.
One being a solid buck in the back and a ton of other small bucks and does. So the attraction is there, which I care about. A lot of us care about. We're deer hunters, right? And wildlife managers. Then you have other pictures where, you know, a solid 3.5-year-old deer, another 2.5-year-old deer, all these bucks in there as well. And then, yeah, the pictures of your turnips, the size of your hat and everything else. I mean, I'm not a terrible food plot grower. Luckily, the last few years, my stuff looks decent. I spend a lot of time and make sure I get it right and time it right and everything. But to be able to simplify and plant twice a year and not, you know, use as much fertilizer off the bat and eventually use no fertilizer, you know, reduce herbicide use with a crimper or spray sparingly because you're controlling weeds with some of this as well. You know, that armor you lay over the soil, keeping those weed seeds at bay. I mean, there's a lot of advantages here. Why do you think, or what would you say the top couple advantages are for people to try this mix out?
Well, I think, I mean, for a lot of your audience, you know, in the food plot world, I mean, number one is, I mean, the attraction is going to be phenomenal. Actually, to the point where I would ask, I would plead that if you do plant our mixes, please use an exclusion fence because it's going to be phenomenal attraction. The other thing is obviously reduction of need for synthetic inputs. You know, now I'm not saying don't pull soil samples. I'm not saying only worry about certain parts of the soil. No, pull soil samples. Look at your CEC. Look at your base saturations. Look at your nutrient levels. I'm not overly concerned with like phosphorus and things like that, especially for food plotting. It would be different if we were, you know, trying to grow grain for yield. But still, pull the soil samples. Let's look at it. Look at the K base saturation, calcium, magnesium. Those are the ones I care about the most for food plotting. And so, yeah, I think we can reduce that. I think our attraction is going to be great. I think if you care about building soil and reducing your need to spend money on fertilizer, if you want to make your plants more nutrient dense, right? As we increase the communication of the microbial population in our soils to the plant, right? So where plant physiology meets a high microbial population, you increase your nutrient density of the given plants through stronger uptakes and better conversion within the plants to things like, you know, amino acids and proteins and all of these other microbial elements that are then uptaken, and the plants are actually communicating and functioning with the soil as it was meant to be, as we see fit, right? So you mentioned mineral stumps earlier. Most people don't fertilize trees, yet a tree can grow so extremely large, right? An oak tree. Well, how does that happen? And why are those nutrient stumps so incredibly nutritious? Well, people are, oh, because the root system is so big. Yes, absolutely. But I would bet quite a bit of money that there's also such a strong connection through the undisturbed microbial population within those trees that have been solubilizing nutrients for a long, long time that are now getting absorbed into these itty bitty stump sprouts. And now that's why your iron and your phosphorus and your magnesium and your calcium, etc., are extremely available to that white-tailed deer that comes by. It's the same idea with food plotting. The only difference is we're doing it in shorter stints and we're reducing the disturbance and we're balancing it out with plants. So if you're interested in that, in offering your deer the most highest density, nutrient density plants, this is the way to do it. I mean, it's proven. You can look at Brix levels, you can do tissue snap analysis. There's quite a few different ways to do it. So by doing that, we're maximizing the acreage that we have planted or can have planted by offering not only great tonnage through diversity, but also really highly nutrient dense tonnage. So that's a difference too, right? So if you're interested in those things, and of course, all the other benefits that come with it, soil aggregation, better water infiltration, all of those things that reduce erosion, reduce synthetic costs, etc. And I could keep going, but I will stop there because I think there's probably enough information there. But I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg as to why you would be interested. I mean, who doesn't want to feed deer and soil for 12 months out of the year? If you can do both and reduce your need for inputs, seems like a win-win, and that's essentially what we've developed here is a 1-2 system for that.
Yep. Well said, my friend. I think, you mentioned soil tests. We will have soil tests available on the website very soon. We want to make sure that we can work with you guys. If you need help on this stuff, reach out to us. We're here. We already help clients with their habitat on the land plans. Al's already helping people with their soil. We're bringing this all together, and not just for food plotters, for whitetail hunters. We are considering soil. So who benefits from good soil? Farmers, cover crop users, gardeners. This is more of a broad thing than just the food plot market, but we are going to be using it in food plots a lot. So Al, thanks for coming on today. Guys, there will be a lot more information about this coming out, but if you're interested right away, you can see this all at vitalizeseed.com. It's VITALIZE seed.com. And we look forward to working for you and helping earn your business. Al, thank you so much. Be talking to you guys.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I think it's a lot of great things ahead. There's a lot of great people in this industry. Like you said, we want an opportunity to earn your business. Give us a message. The only last thing I would say, if you go to our website, we have distributors set up. So if you're in an area where you'd like to see a distributor list, go on there and make sure to check them out. We got a guy we got Michigan, Southern Indiana, Southeastern Ohio, and Iowa so far. We are looking for some more distributors. Obviously, we have e-commerce set up as well. So if you're interested in contacting one of our distributors, contacting us, or even becoming a possible distributor and you'd like to have a discussion with us, please click on those links, shoot us a message, and we will get back to you. And we look forward to the opportunity to earn your business and answer your questions.
All right, guys, there's a link below in the show notes. Otherwise, we will get back to you soon with another episode of the Habitat Podcast.